sessions together. And as we begin to really lock in on the benefits of speaking in tongues, the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 14, verse 18, makes an amazing statement. He says, I thank God that I speak with tongues more than you all. I mean, what a statement from the man that wrote most of the New Testament, who manifested the character of Christ, the wisdom of Christ, the power of Christ, more than any man that's ever lived, and who told us, follow me as I follow Jesus, said he did this all the time. What an insight into his devotional life. And this verse is one of the most important verses as we move into the subject of tongues. My spiritual father shares an amazing story about this verse because years ago, Mike Bickle, my spiritual father, he grew up in a denomination that did not believe in speaking in tongues. And he went to a meeting and got touched by the power of God, began to speak in tongues, went back to his leaders, and they said, man, this is wrong. This is not of God. You need to stay away from this. So he began to run far away from speaking in tongues and tell everybody around him that it was wrong. Yet every night before he went to sleep, he says, God, I'm going to do this for 6 months. I'm going to pray in tongues for 30 minutes every night for the next 6 months, because 1 Corinthians 14:18, if Paul, the man who has been busier and did more for Jesus, more than any man that's ever lived, did this, I've got to know why he said this. And so for 6 months every night, Mike would pray in tongues. And after 6 months, it became very clear to him of the power and the benefits and the glory of speaking in tongues. And it's characterized the next 40 years of his life. The Apostle Paul makes some amazing statements. And when I talk about tongues in this course, there's different aspects of tongues. In 1 Corinthians 12 through 14, Paul does talk about the corporate gift of tongues. He talks about tongues in a corporate setting and says, if you're going to be speaking in tongues in a corporate setting towards there's a church service going on, you need to have interpretation. You don't need just to be shouting out things in tongues because no one knows what you're saying. It's not building up the church and it's not edifying the church. He goes, that's not what we're after. He goes, we want things in order. I also believe there's an aspect of speaking in tongues used in evangelism. On the day of Pentecost, it was evangelism in the tongues of the nations. I have friends of mine that have stepped into nations, into villages where they never knew the language, and supernaturally the language came out of them, and many were saved as they preached in languages they did not know. But what I'm talking about in this class is the personal, devotional praying in tongues, where it's you and God alone praying spirit to spirit, because I believe that's one of the missing elements in the body of Christ in this hour. And the thing that the charismatics are most known for, tongues, are the thing we do the least of. The things that so many people say, it's tongues, 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 but few people actually do it in their secret life. And I want to move past just having a statement that I agree with it to actually engaging it in a consistent way into moving into the deeper things of God. In 1 Corinthians 14, Paul begins to lay out benefits of speaking in tongues, and that's what I want to spend the next few sessions together as we look at this. Paul makes some amazing statements like when a man speaks in tongues, he does not speak to men, but he speaks to God. That's the first thing you need to understand, that when speaking in tongues, you have a direct phone line to God. So it's very important that when you begin to pray in tongues, that you visualize that you're speaking to God. I picture God on the throne, Revelation 4, or God in my spirit. I focus God on the throne and God in my spirit, and this is what you're going to find quickly in your journey of praying in tongues. Your mind will get distracted every 5 seconds. Your mind will wander. You will think about random things. The craziest thoughts and emotions will come out of you as you begin to pray in tongues. But friend, I want you to stay with it. When your mind has wandered, just bring it back. When your mind's gone here, just bring it back. And I want to invite you, beginning today, beginning right now, that you would begin to give 20 minutes a day for the rest of your life. 20 minutes a day of setting apart for tongues. That can be in your quiet time at home. It can be your car ride to work, your car ride to school. It can be at the grocery store. It can be in lots of different ways, but taking a 20-minute block of time to begin to reach for God, focusing on God on the throne and God in your spirit. And as you cultivate that for 20 minutes, what I've found in my life is around the 20-minute mark, the atmosphere begins to shift. I find that it goes from me reaching for God into me moving with God. And that's when heaven comes down His thoughts begin to invade mine. His prayers begin to invade mine. His emotions begin to invade mine. And I move into this place of divine unity with God. Friend, I want you to know I have given myself to this for 20 years. And I have experienced this almost a daily basis of the shift of when it moves from reaching for God into moving with God. And that's the power of praying in tongues. And as soon as the shift happens, that's when prayer is awakened. And that's when you begin to move into the spirit of prayer, into the spirit of revelation, and you begin to move into that Romans 8:26. We do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit makes intercession with us and for us with groanings, inarticulable speech, with groanings that are too deep to be uttered. And that's where the spirit of prayer is released. I want to invite you from this day forward to begin to give yourself to this in a very powerful way, and you will watch God wreck your life in an amazing way. I look forward to hearing your testimonies as we go into this. Bless you.